So I welcome you to this session and we'll quickly recap the things that we achieved on last Friday. So yeah, last Friday we were discussing about the constructor concept. Okay, we have already seen the concept of encapsulation, where we studies in details about like get get and getters and setters, then get and set properties, then automatic properties, how to generate them. Okay, we also faced some issue. We spent like 5 to 7 minutes on that. That was related to this access modifier of this particular variable, class variable. Okay. Now, what we were doing, we were having a class called employee. Inside the employee, we were having some public properties, or we can say class properties, class variables, name, ID, age, salary, is active. Okay. Now we were trying to understand the constructor concept. Okay. So to understand that particular concept, what we did, we created some constructor just like could you please be on mute, and if you would having any question then you can unmute yourself anytime. So public employee, this was an we can say constructor. So I give you some points like constructor name would always be same, just like where is those points. Yeah, here are those points. Constructor name will always be same as the class name. So yes, this is my constructor. My class name is employee, and my constructor name is also employee. So this there is no parameter or no argument inside this. So this is called default constructor. Similarly, we also created some parameterized concept constructor. This is constructor. The class name would be same. Okay, and other points are like there is no return type. Okay, we will not write any void or any return string integer over here, just simply public employee and the some parameters. If parameters are there, then that is called parameterized constructor. So parameter can be anything like one parameter to two or as much as these variables are. Okay, we can define as per our requirements how many parameters we are needed. Okay, just like over here we just need define one parameter called name. Here we are assigning name and id. Here we are using all the parameters that the variables that are defined over here. So how to call them? Simply just like we are creating the object of the class. When we will create the object of the class, then by using the object I can access all the just like I am accessing the method of the class. Similarly, if there is my employee class, okay, and it's my another class called employee test. Inside that, if I'll create the object, at that time I need to supply the value. Okay, so for an example, here I'm not supplying any value inside this argument value. So that means this is also my constructor. Constructor will be invoked as soon as I'll create an object of the class. Just like if I have created an object of the class, that means my constructor already has been invoked. Method is also kind of same, but method we need to call them by using this object reference dot. As soon as I'll write employee one dot, then my method will be called. But over here, we just need to create the object of the class. Just like I'm creating employee one is equal to new employee. So the default constructor here, the default constructor, because default constructor don't have any parameter already invoked. If I'll go inside this, I'll select this and F12, then this zero parameter you can see access come out. If I comment it out, let us say if I have commented this, then you can see then there would be an error. I cannot create the object in this way. This is saying employee doesn't contain any constructor that takes zero argument. Means there is no default constructor inside our application, right? So this is the main purpose of creating the constructor. We can define the value just like you see. There are some application forms. If you need to register on, let us example on Facebook, so you must or you need to create a Gmail account. So it's must to give some information just like your email address, your password, your phone number, your some basic details. So basically the constructors has been created at the end, at the back end, and you need to supply the values. Just like here you cannot create default constructor. At least you either you should give the name. Okay, at least you should give the name or name and id or all these values. All of these constructor can be called, right? Just like there is no as such error because we are supplying the string name over here. This is also there is no any kind of error over here because this constructor is being called. but the default constructor is commented, so I cannot use. So basically what we are doing here, we are putting some limitation to create the object. User cannot create the random objects now. User have to supply the value according to the constructor created in the separate class, right? He is not able to create the random employee. Just like if the employee, so he is compulsory to provide either name and ID both. Okay, that depends upon the constructor, how much constructor, how many constructor that we have created. Okay, so constructor will always be called whenever we will create an object of the class. Just like if I have created object employee to execute an employee, so which constructor got called? One parameterized constructor got called. If I have created object of this class, and I again create multiple objects, as I told you that if we can have multiple employees, so just like if I need to create, let us say, some more called Amit, then this employee constructor also get called. Got it? So yeah, as we can create and accordingly we can supply the value. What are the constructor options available over there? Three constructors options available over here, right? Okay. Yeah. So
Aniket, I just wanted to ask you regarding why the default constructor with zero parameters is required. We have created only an object over here, and it is invoking, I think, default constructor with zero parameters. Correct?
mhm, mhm.
Is it correct? So the default
So
constructor with
mhm.
zero parameters should be present.
Okay. So the thing over here is that if you'll not create any kind of object, okay, just like I commented all the constructors, if you'll not create any constructor,
Hmm.
okay, then you see if I'll comment it out the below one, then there is no as such error.
Okay.
That means always the C sharp will understand that there is no constructor created for this class and there is no restriction in another class. So I can directly create the object of the class, and of course, if there is no as such parameter defined, the default constructor will be invoked. But if we have created some like some parameterized constructor, just like if I have created only one constructor, that means we are putting limitation over here is that like whenever any employee or anywhere the object of this class will get created, one parameter is must required. Other than this condition, the user cannot create the object of this class. So we are putting some condition on this class. Hey, yes, you can create the object of my employee class, you can access all this, but the condition is that first you need to supply the value of name, then only you can create the object. So we are putting some restriction on the objects to create the object. So what are the restriction? To put some restriction in the object creation, we are creating these constructor. Now neither you can create default constructor nor you can create two parameterized or three parameterized constructor. You just can create only single parameter constructor. Now I'm putting one more condition over here. Hey, either you can create one parameter constructor or two parameter constructor. Now I'm putting one more condition over here. Hey, now you can create the default constructor as well. So this default constructor is always invoked, but if we are using the parameterized constructors at that time, you also need to define the default one, otherwise the compiler will get confused either we need to use the default or not. Got it? But if you haven't defined any constructor, then by default, naturally, automatically the default constructor will get invoked. Any question? Did you get your answer, Aswini?
Yes, but
Did,
when we don't define any constructor, then it is accepting the default constructor or a
yes,
blank with blank parameters. And
yes.
when we define a constructor in any class, then we
Mhm.
have to have a default constructor with zero parameters. Correct?
Yes, like if we are not defining any constructor, as I explained you that there is no
Hmm.
constructor in
Hmm.
parent class. Okay, let us say there is no constructor. Then as soon as I will create the object of this class, the default constructor will always be invoked. Okay, we need not to define the default constructor at this time,
Hmm.
right? because we are not putting any restriction when we create the object of the employee. But for an example, if you need to put some restriction, hey, you can create the employee object of the employee class only when you will pass some values. Just like if you will pass some name or id, then only you can create the object. I'll also give you some practical examples of this. So just try to understand that we have created an object of employee class, but there is no restrictions mentioned. I can directly create the object of the class, right? So over here there is no constructor mentioned. But as I explain you that if I need to put some restrictions, then only I need to create the constructor. So if you have defined any constructor, just like you have defined one parameterized constructor, now you cannot use the default constructor. Now you cannot use, because it will say that you need to put some argument inside this. Hey, now the default constructor no longer in the consideration. This is saying, yeah, there is no argument given to the correspondence to a equal format name of the employee. Now you cannot create the default. Okay, if you need to create the default, if you still want any as per your logic, for an example, if you want parameterize as non both of the constructor, then you can define this default as well as parameterize. Then you can access this. Okay. We'll try to understand in with some other examples as well. Okay, so this is my default parameter, one parameter constructor, two parameter constructor object, one parameter object. Here we have defined logic like this: employee, right? Employee name and ID, and employee. Okay. Is there any doubt? Is it okay?
Yes, no, display.
Okay. That's it. So yeah, always my constructor name would be always same as the class name, and there would be no as such return type. And this constructor will be called as soon as we will create the object of the class automatically. We need not to call this. Just like we are not calling any constructor over here. This is the constructor itself. This is one parameterized constructor. This is default object and the constructor inside the object. Okay. Now we have seen this example employee class. This is my parent class, and this was the child class in which the parent was getting implemented. Okay, and we were uh, calling these just like if I'll call this, the things would be get like what we have mentioned inside this class. These are blank. Okay, inside this we tried to implement this like these are my variables, and I need to assign the value to these. So I'll supply the value from here, name and ID from another class. This would be assigned to this variable, and further I can use this. This was just an example. From here I have set the values, and from the next line, employee3 dot name. Here from here I am getting those values. So this is how it will work. Okay. So similarly, I can create uh, as much as object as I needed. So yeah, this was the basic, I can say, example of this method. Okay, so I think that is fine. Okay, let me give you some more practical example. Before that, employee object can be created on. Okay, so for an example, if you need to uh, create some constructor with some different value, let us say public, I would say employee. And at the time of object creation, you just want some values, just like hey, you say string. I just want the mm, let us say ID of the employee. This was said int ID. If you just need ID of the object, okay. Here you just need name of the object. So what you will need to do whenever you will create the object of this employee class, if you will just pass the ID, then this constructor will get invoked. Okay, then you need to pass the ID from argument, and further you can assign this id. This is my local variable, and here is my class variable. If I need to call this class variable, then I need to use this keyword. Let us say this dot id is equal to id. So my id, this particular id is this one, and the above id class variable is this one. So the local value assigned to the global one. Now we have some value for this id, and we can use this id throughout the application. Okay, if I need to call this, you see there is no reference. This is saying zero reference. This is also saying zero reference. It's one reference, right? One reference. One reference means we have used this at once one time. We haven't used this, so this is saying zero reference. If I use this constructor, let me create one more object. Let us say employee e4 is equal to new employee. Now if I'll provide the id integer, some integer value just like 12, so which constructor will get invoked? This particular constructor. Okay, because we are providing this integer kind of value inside this. If I'll provide some string value, then this constructor will get invoked. Okay, now you see this have one reference. If I'll create one more object like this, let us say I need to create employee 5. We have multiple, this is, let us say id 13. So now if you will come inside this, you see this would be having two references. One with employee 4, now it's employee 5. If you will create one more object, then there would be three reference of this constructor. So as much as your object would get created, the reference count will get increased. Okay, now what is the what are we are trying to like pass over here? This is my integer type of id we are passing. So you see this id would be assigned to the class variable. Now we can use this id, we can directly call this id. This is public in nature, so we can call this and use this. Let us say console.write uh, employee 4 id emp4 id. So directly emp4 dot id I can directly call. If I'll not assign the value from here, right, so which constructor will get called? The default constructor will get called, and we are not passing any value. So here what would be the result? The result would be like we are not setting any value to the id, sorry, to the id. So the value would be the default like 0 integer. The default value of integer would be 0, but now we are setting some value, we are passing some argument. So my id is 12, right? Similarly, if I need to see the output of this employee 5, the id employee 5 id, we are giving sending argument at 13, so the output should also be 13. So we are setting the value from here, and we are getting the value from here. Got it? Let me execute it and let us see if we'll get.
You say employee 5 you have not, employee 4 is added over there.
Okay, okay, okay. We need to change it. Correct. Good finding. So if we are getting again employee 4, then 12 12 output should be 12 12 at the end. Otherwise, if we have employee 5.id, then we should get 12 and 13. I hope you got the concept. Good catch, Ashwini. Yeah. We are getting 12 12, right? Employee 4 ID is 12, employee 5 ID is 12. We should use employee 5 over here. So simply we are setting some values through the constructor, and then we are getting those values. If I'll not set these values, then this will return the default value. You got it, Ashwini? Clear?
Yes.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. So the advantage of is that any the user cannot create any random object now. Just like we are creating new employee, the user would be create the object based upon the constructor defined, right? If the constructor is defined as single parameter, then only user is forced to create the object with the single parameter value. Now he is not able to create the object randomly, just like two parameter, three parameter. The object creation will be always would be dependent upon the constructor defined over here, right? Okay, just like two references over here because we have created two. We have used this particular constructor two times, one over here, one over here, passing the integer type of values. So this particular string value, we are passing string value, and this constructor has been used only one place. That's why it's showing one place, one references. Okay, yeah. So
Can you please go to employee test once?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Any confusion?
If I want to print this in the constructor itself, because I am taking passing values from here. For
Mm-hmm.
example, Aniket and 25. If I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
print it in the employee class itself.
From here,
Yeah.
so you see, like you don't have any man method inside this class.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can print or like first you can define the value and then you can print just like this dot name
Hmm.
or just you want to print these values just like you are talking about Ankit and 25.
Hmm.
So you can print those values over here as well. It's okay. Let us say these values itself. You can call these value directly inside the same class, right? You need not to create the object. Either you can call by using the class reference. I already have explained you employee
Hmm.
dot name, right? It should be displayed over here. Let us say directly I need to call the name and ID you want to print. And this is from, let us say, simple first. Okay. You need to print name plus some cap. Yeah. You want this?
Yeah.
Then how will it work? First, we will let me comment it out. Okay. So first we will create the object. So our access will come inside over here. Now we have supplied some values like Ankit and 25. So Ankit will be assigned to this and ID would be assigned to this. In the next line, the control will come over here. We'll see this will print this and name that we have just defined and ID. But right, I give you, I'll also explain you one more point. Okay, in the upcoming example that this we can use this, we can define some logic inside the constructor, but this is not a good practice. If we have some logic like we need to print something, do some calculation, then create a separate method for that. Okay,
Okay.
so these constructor you can use this, the output would always be correct, but these constructor are just to define, to put some restriction on the object creation. I putting some restriction. Hey, you can create the object of my class if you will provide the name and mandatory ID. Okay. If there is any business logic, then always use method. You see, this is also kind of method. This is also, there is an interview question as well. I'll also give you some interview question in which the interview will ask you what is the difference between constructor and method. Then you need to explain 4 5 points that I'm going to give you in this particular session. Okay. So if you have these kind of things, then just do these things inside any method, not over here. Although if you want to execute it, let us say, hmm, let me execute it. You see, you got the correct output. Constructor Ankit 25,
Hmm.
right? So yes, you will get the correct output. You can print the value. So what will happen if I'll define these values over here? Let us say directly. Even though the output would be correct, why? Because these values are like these values. The name is this one. The ID is this one. These are not the class variables, name and ID. So I am passing the name as Ankit and ID that directly that will come over here and we'll get the output. but our purpose is to get the class variables just like these. If I'll call like this dot name, then my global variable is getting called the global class variables. Now what I'll get over here, Aswini, what would be my output in this line? Could you please explain?
Here I will get the local variables value, name
No,
and ID.
I am using this keyword. I am using this keyword.
Okay,
Please,
this keyword, I think it will be default value because we have not assigned anything to what.
exactly. Good catch. Yeah, yeah. So I'll get the default values. I'll get maybe null or empty over here and zero over here. This is an integer value because I haven't set these global values. So this keyword means the object of current class. Okay. So I can access using this keyword. I can access the class variable. So I'll get the default value. But I'll use this line after these assignments. Then I'll get the correct output because what we are doing over here, we are assigning these values to the global variable, and now I'm calling those values to the global variable. Either I can call these values from here. This is not a good practice, as I told you that, because a constructor are never we should not use constructor from the business purpose implementation or any functionality implementation properties. If you need to do things like this, then always define these values inside the method, just like over here we are using this line. So this is my main method. Inside main method, I'm printing these values. Neither so inside the constructor, I'm only passing these values. Got it? Any other question? If not, then
No,
uh,
no question.
okay, let's see one more practical example where you will get some more picture on this. Let me create one more class. Let's say car, or let's say user. I am creating a class called user class. Internally is the default constructor. I am passing some values. Let us say I am passing a string, uh, public string string. I have user first name and I have user. Let us say last name. Instead of last name, let us say user ID. Okay, and I have user is active or not. So I need to let's make it integer that we can get the example of every data type. Tool is admin. Okay, and let us say one more public string. Let us say public string. We can say city of the user. Okay. Now there are some warnings. I'll explain you these nullables in the upcoming sector. You also asked this question yesterday as well. So there is a separate concept in C# called nullable reference. Okay. So what are these nullable concept? How to avoid these? I'll explain you in the second chapter. You can, if you will put some question mark over here, then there is no such error. So I'll explain you that. Don't worry about this. Just ignore. Okay. Yeah. So public class user, first name, user ID, admin, and city that we have defined. Okay. Now we need to create some constructor. So by using these values. Okay. So how to create constructor? Public, but the syntax of just look into this, guys. Public, I'll say my constructor name would always be same as the class name. Just say user and these just like method. Okay, this is my constructor. So which constructor is this? This is default constructor. But let us say I don't want to make default constructor in this class, and I'll at that when the user someone will create the object of class, then I need the argument as first name and integer as user ID right? And I also want argument as bool. Bool is admin, okay, and string city, right? So whenever you gonna create the object of this class, and I want these parameter values. That means now if you create the object of user class, you cannot create directly the default constructor, right? As soon as you create the object, then this will ask for the these values. Okay. Now let me create one more object, or let us see. Let's create one class where I'll be calling this user. Okay. So for that, let me create one more class. What should be the name of the class? Give me some good name. Okay. Let's create the object here itself. This is my employee class, right? I can create my constructor. Over here. Where is my employee test? Yeah, in employee test, like just I created the object of the employee class. Similarly, I can create the object of the user class as well inside the same class. Let us say here are the implementation of user class. So if I'll create user one is equal to new user to create the object new user, right? So can I write it like this? No, I cannot write it like this. If we'll mouse over to this, this will say there is no argument given that corresponds to the requirement format. So this is saying, hey, just give me name, user ID, is admin, and city. If you will not provide all these four information, then I cannot create object for you. Got it? This is the purpose of constructor. We are restricting that, hey, you cannot create the object unless you will provide all these values. So user must need to define all these values. Okay. Yeah. Inside the user class, for an example, I have one more constructor. So the name of all the constructor would be same, public user. The arguments may be different. The parameters may be different. This is four parameter constructor. Let us say I'm saying, hey, just give me string first name and string city. Yeah, string string. Okay. And you can also create the object public. Need to create one more constructor. If I'll say, hey, you can also create an object if you'll give me some string. Let us say you just provide the user ID. This is integer. Okay. If you'll just provide the user ID, then you can also create the object. Okay. Now I have three options. Just a second. Now I have three options to create the object. I cannot create any default object of this user class. Either I can create an object providing four values. Either I can create an object of this class using these two values, first name and city, or I can also create an object by just providing one value, right? So inside my employee test, here is the object of this class. You can see this is showing plus two overloads. At the end, you see in the warning, user.id string first name username. This is my first constructor. This is saying plus two overload, means there are two other methods. By using them, we can implement this. Okay. So either I can do it like, let us say my name is uh, Naveen, or let us say, let's take my example. Yeah, let's say my name. Still, this is showing any error. Hey, is saying there is no as such like constructor created, which is taking string as an output. Okay, there is no as such constructor mentioned. Either you provide any integer kind of ID or string name and city, or like either these four values. So if I'll provide Ankit, comma, let us say Jaipur, then there is no as such error. And which constructor will get called, will get invoked? this constructor, two parameter constructor, this is showing one reference. You see one reference. I'll click on this reference, then I'll just navigate it directly over here. I'll select this, press F12, then I'll come over here. And these are zero references, means yet these constructor are not being used yet. Only this constructor is getting used. Yeah. Okay. Now let me create one more object of, I'm creating one more user. This is my user 2. And along with this username, I'm also providing, let us say, some other values. I'm just providing like 0007. So this is an integer type of value. So which constructor will get invoked? The last one, because this is taking as an integer type of parameter argument. So yeah, one reference over here as well. We already have defined one reference for this. Okay, right? Let me create one more object, and you can create as much as object you want. Just like for integer values, you need to create 10 users with ID only. Then yes, you can do it. You need to you want to create 25 users with Ankit with the city and name. Yes, you can do it. Just provide some different name and different city name. You can do it. Let me create one more object. User 3 is equal to new user. Okay. Let me give, let us say, first name. Let us say just see. Okay. Now the argument was after first name. I think we were using the user ID. So let us say user ID is integer type of value. Let's say 157. And after that we were having is admin or not. So we need to send true and false. This is you show in the below. It is showing the options. First name, integer user ID, bool admin. So bool means either true or false. Yes, we are saying yes. This is admin. And the last value is city. So let us say there is a city name. Let us call Navalgarh. So this is a city. Okay. So yeah, we are providing these values, the C150 sign true and Navalgarh to this user. So which constructor will get invoked this time? So the first one, the first constructor that we have invoked. So this is taking one argument. Now, like you see, if you are going to create further, you can the same logic you can do it over here, just like this. If you use this, okay, the city, the first name, right? The first name, last name, you can give those value. You can assign. The C will come over here and will be assigned to the above one. Similarly, you can define this dot user ID is equal to user ID. This dot user ID. This dot is admin. This dot last name city. Okay. Similarly, the first name and city you are will get as an argument. So this dot first name is equal to first name. This dot city is equal to city, right? And here you will just get an user ID. So just define the user ID like this. You will get the user ID and give this user ID to the global name. Okay, and similarly you can use these values. This is as simple as, can I create an object like this? Let us say, let me create an object user, let us say user 4 is equal to new user. Can I create like this? No, because there is no SS default constructor now we can create. We can only create object of these three types, either with name and city, or either with ID, or either with all these values. Apart from these type of object, you cannot create a new object of this class. Okay, so that default constructor is not allowed. Okay, right. Now I think you are clear on this. Any doubt, Aswini?
No, no doubts.
Okay, you got it. You got it. The concept
Yes.
how to create. Now, as I told you earlier as well, there might be an interview question that may ask you uh, let's where your employee class. We were working on employee class and we are writing in the employee test itself. Yeah, we are writing is something. So they're very important interview question like what is the difference between what is the difference between let us say constructor and method, or method we can say function as well. Like function or method both are same. What is the difference between this? So as I told you that you see in function, is it compulsory that function will return some values? Is it compulsory? Function should return some values? No.
No.
Right. So function or method, function may or may not return value. But in case of constructor, constructor will never return any value. Right? This is one of the difference. Okay. And other difference is that the method name can be anything, right? But the constructor name will always 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 be same as class name. It- And the next difference is that we can say mm, function will have that, yeah, as I explain you that on your question. Function can say method will have the business or feature logic, right? If you need to print some operations, so try to implement everything, the business logic that I explained you few minutes back inside the method only. But in constructor, we can do this, but it's not a good practice. But constructor will be helping create the object of class, right? Constructor always define constructor just to take some help in creating object, just to put some restriction. So not good practice to we can say implement business logic, right? You can do it, but it's not a good practice. Okay. Other differences, there might be some more differences, just like yeah. So how to call a method? To call the method, we need to create the object of the class, and you by using object reference, we can say to call the method, we need to create object of the class, right? And use the object reference, right? Just like I created user employee 3 dot employee, and then employee 3 dot, I can create all the methods that are being defined inside employee class. But if you need to call any constructor, then how to call that? You that will automatically get called when we will create an object of the class. To call the constructor, okay, just need to create the object of the class, okay, and supply values. whatever argument it's taking. Okay. I think these are the basic or main difference, and in your interview you need to explain. So I think you got an idea what is the methods that we already have discussed so many times, and still we will keep discussing. And the constructor, okay, and we'll also discuss constructor. We'll also use in our framework as well. At that time, we'll again use these concepts. Okay, Aswini, are you good enough to explain these at the time of interview, or just see like are you good enough if someone will ask you what is the difference between function and constructor?
Yes, it depends upon the business to use method or constructor. It is not like we can we have to always use constructor in our coding, or we have to use method as well.
In yeah, at the business, from the implementation perspective, I'll explain you that. But yeah, for an example, you just need to create some restriction while creating the object. Then you need to use the constructor, but you need to write some business logic as well. Just like you need to launch the browser, you need to do some calculations, you need to fill some values. Hey, some username, password, everything you need to fill that. So all these business logics will be defined inside a method. Okay, for an example, if you need to put some restrictions, okay, just like user class. Now, for an example, you need all these values as well. Just like you need first name, there is an page, for an example, login page or registration page that you have. You need to provide first name over here, username, ID, all these values, just like send keys we have in Selenium. So for that, we will having for send keys, we need to click on that. We will always be having separate methods for that. So this is just to put some conditions on the object creation. That's only. Okay, when we'll use it practically, and also let me give you some more example. Okay, when we'll create the like practical uses, at that time you will get an idea. Yeah, now we are creating constructor, now we are creating methods. In this session, you just understand what is constructor and what is method. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let me create. Hmm, one. Okay, I think you have got this. Let me tell you some other uses of constructor. Okay. Let me create one class. Let me let me give the name is like I have my system class. Okay, here is my system class. So in my system class, for an example, my requirement is that we also achieve this. My requirement is that I need to define a class for which object cannot be created. Let us say interviewer may ask you create a class for which object cannot be created. Okay. For like user class, employee class, you can directly easily create the object, but you need to define a class which object cannot be created. So I already have explained you one concept how to define this class. Do you remember the static keyword? I defined the static class. If we'll make this class as an static, then we cannot create the object of class. If you remember, I already have explained you in the previous session. Now there is one more way. This is like you can answer at the time of interview by the help of constructor. You can also like declare this class in such a way that no one will be able to create the object of this class. How to do that? For an example, let us say I have public, not any property, public constructor. I need to create one constructor, public my system. So this is my default constructor. Let us say I have main method as well inside this class. Public or I told you shortcut as well. VS public void static man and tab, not virtual public static SVM. Yeah, there is man. So inside the this class, you can directly create the object of this class inside the same. Let us say sys system is equal to new system. Now, if you will make this particular constructor, let us say as a private constructor. Now, till now we are using the public constructor. Make this private constructor. Then yeah, you can create the object inside same class. But if you will trying to create the object of my system in separate class, then you will not be allowed to do that. Okay, let's try to create in at the same employee test class. So here we were understanding user class. Now let us say my system class. My class. Okay. My system ms is equal to new my system. Can I do that? This is showing. Yeah. So here is an error. You say inaccessible due to its protection level. What is the protection level? We have defined the default constructor as private. So this is saying, hey, you cannot create the object of this class outside, like you cannot create object of this particular class outside of this class, right? If I'll make this public, the constructor name as like type as public, then yes, the default constructor can be called. Okay, but if I'll make as private, then that is not being allowed. Got it? So this was a small session, topic, but yeah, it may be asked at the time of interview. If hey, what or they might ask you, like if your constructor is private, then can you create object of this class? The answer is no. Outside of this class, we cannot create the object of class. Yeah, but inside the same class, we can create the object. Got it? Okay. Okay, I hope these examples are enough to understand the constructor. If not, then I'll give you some more example. Okay, let's have
You have already created the object in the class, so how come we can create
yeah,
a class which object cannot be created? That was a main intention. No, we have already created an object in this.
yeah, but a single we can create multiple objects using the same class. Just like we have one this object, and you can create as much object you want. Just like this is the access level. Like this object is being created in some other class. This is my employee test class.
Hmm.
Okay, this is
Hmm.
same as like if I have some, let us say, if I have some public value, public integer a, right? Or let us say private integer a. Can I use this private a directly over here inside the same class by using, let us say, my system or my system dot a? Can I use that
No,
directly? Yeah, no, inside the same class.
no.
Can't I use this? Why is showing an error? You just tell me. I already have explained you all this concept, or like just
It's a
directly. I need
private
to.
variable. No? System dot.
So what?
We cannot access this, where we have to use get and set method to access
But
it.
I am talking about the same class. I'm
Yeah.
not saying outside of this class. Inside the
Okay.
same
Okay.
class. Yeah, yeah. I'm talking about the same class. In the same class, can I access this directly?
Yes. You
Yeah,
can access.
right. But if I need to access this in separate class, then
We have to create
first
get
create the
and
object.
set method.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Then get and set. Right. Similarly, if my constructor, I have defined one constructor, whether it's public or like this is the just an access modifier, whether it's public or private, I can directly create the object inside the same class. But The condition over here, if I need to use this, if I need to create the object of this class in some another class, then okay, if I need to create object of this class in some another class, then the constructor should be public only. If this should be private, this is like the internal implementation of this programming. If this is private, then yeah, you can create the object over here, you may use it, you can work on these values, that is fine. But as soon as the user will try to access this class, this object from some other class, then there would be error and it will say, hey, you cannot access that. So yeah, that is all about this access modifier. Okay, some values we can use in the same class. And if I'll define this private, private means the private keyword, the access modifier I'll explain in the upcoming session. Let's take the session about this only, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So means we are putting some restriction that these particular values, whether it's class or variables or methods, you can use inside the same class. Neither you can use this private property outside of this class, neither this constructor or neither any object. You cannot use any object also outside of this class because they are private in nature. Similarly, you can create the object over here because we are in the same class. But if you'll go and trying to create an object outside of this class, then you will not be authorized. Yes, because my system is in different class and employee test is in separate class. That's why. Got it?
Okay.
Yeah. Just like these class variables. This concept is same. This is private in nature. That's why you cannot create object outside of this class. Yes, but inside this class you may create as much as objects as you want. Okay, good, good question. Let us say, let me explain you a little more. So you are also like more keen to know the practical uses of this. So let me create some class called customer. Okay, do we have enough time? Yeah, we'll explain 10 to 15 minutes more. Okay. Inside this, let me create some public. I'll the question you ask, I'm explaining that in details. Let us say public string name. Either you can create it like this or public the customer name, customer. Let us say integer age, or let us say customer string, and let us say company of the customer. Like these variable you have. These are class variables. Now you need to create, let us say, one constructor of this customer class, public, or I'll explain you that. Uh, let's search me out as well. Shortcut to create constructor in Visual Studio. Okay, let me search it out. I've never used this, but yeah, that should be any option. So we need not to write all those. So in the type plus tab, hide the tab key twice. Okay, the default constructor. No, we don't want to create default constructor. We want to create parameterized constructor. Okay, from snippet as well, we can do that. Extract, generate, override, add. It's okay. Control K. I'll search it and explain you that is not a big concern. Let's directly create. This is my default constructor. Okay, but I don't want to create any default constructor. I want some parameterized constructor. Let us say string name, integer age, and string company. Right? Yeah. So as soon as I'll use this class, I'll create the object of customer class somewhere else, and then I'll directly assign these value to the global, just like this. This dot name is equal to name, right? This dot age is equal to age. This dot company is equal to company, right? Yeah. Now, in the real time, just like for an example, you have to fill an application form, right? Just I told you the example of the real time. So let me open Gmail. In the Gmail, let me close this, and yeah, do we have any other options? No. Let me open my account. I have. Let's open some. Let us say Amazon, Flipkart. We have open. So I don't want to open my account. I let us say sign it out, and you need to log in, create your Amazon account. So yes, you can create an Amazon account. For that, you need to provide your these are the details you need to provide: your name, your mobile number, your email address. This is optional. You say this is optional, and all these values. If you directly click on continue button, there would be an error. This is saying, hey, your username, your password, your mobile number, everything is mandatory. So what they have done at the back end, they have designed a constructor. So the object of this page can be created, create account, only when you will supply the username, mobile number. Email ID is optional, means the constructor uh, like is not created for this particular. Like there are two constructor created for this page. One constructor with email ID, okay, and one constructor without email ID. If you'll enter name, mobile number, email ID, then first constructor will get called, and this is optional. You may skip as well. Means there is another constructor defined in the backend where email ID is not asked. Okay, only these four values, only these three values: name, mobile number, and password. Got it? This is the practical use of when we create the object of this class. Aswini, did you get it now? At the backend, how it's working?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. Similarly, I have a company customer. Okay, customer page. You need to provide the name, age, and company. So in the real time, we cannot submit the application without entering all these values. That depends upon, just like some there would be some mandatory value when we are filling any application form or registration page. Then say there are some mandatory value and some optional values. Yeah. So this is how it works. Okay. Now let me explain you that. Okay, so like you don't wrong data. If your name would be empty, your phone number would be empty, then how you can register inside of any application? So you cannot do that. That's why there are some object level restrictions when we'll create the object. And there are some application as well where you can empty can submit a blank application as well. So yeah, that means there is default constructor is getting called, and you need not to submit any kind of value. Yeah, this is how this will work. Okay. Now let me create object of this class, or let me use these values. Okay. So can I, just like I have defined these value like this dot name, this now, something like this. So can't I create the properties of these values, just like we have seen the properties earlier as well? Direct properties. I am defining the values like this and then calling like this, argument and all. I'm doing all this stuff. So can't I directly create the like properties of this class? Yes, I can do that. How will I'll do that? Let me create some properties of this class. Okay. So to create the properties, you can create a prop, right? This is my property. You can define it like here also. Get and set value. I hope you are getting the concept. Name, right? So this is saying you cannot define it twice. Let me remove all these things from here. Okay. This is property for name. This is for where is our name? Yeah.
Aniket, I think the screen is locked again.
Okay. Just a second. Give me a. Yeah. Let me share my screen again. Let me know if the screen be visible to you.
Yes.
Okay. Ashwini, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I am able to see the screen.
Okay. Yeah. This would be an error. Should not be another one. Yeah. So you see, either I can define the value like this public string name is and the company value like by using the properties as well. So let me explain you the concept of encapsulation over here. Let's first let me comment it out. Let's use like this only. Or this dot the same thing. Don't get confused. These are very small but important concept. Yeah, the thing same thing that we are using so far. This is public company everything that we are using. Okay, and we have one method also inside this class. Let us see. This is my constructor. This is not a method. And let us say one. I have one method public string. This is the return type of this method. Let us say get customer info. Okay, please be on mute, guys. So this method is returning the name. Okay, and this is also returning the age. Okay, and this method is also returning the company name, right? Yeah. So we have two values. Now I need to access this class. Okay. So for that, either you can create the object inside the same class, or I need to create one more class. Let us say test customer. You have one class over here. So let's add first one man method, right? Inside the man method, can anyone tell me that can I create default constructor? If I need to create the constructor of this class, customer class, can I create default constructor? Let us say customer C1 is equal to new C1. Can I write it like this? Can I directly create the object? No. Now I cannot create default object of default object of this. We can say constructor of this class, but I need to define these values because we have created a constructor with three parameters. So now neither two parameter constructor or object allow neither default. You can create object of this class by passing all these three values. Got it? Okay. So let me provide some meaningful values. Let us say my name is Tom, age is 37, and the city is or the company name we need to provide. Let us say company is IBM. Yeah. So we have created one object. Okay. Now, if the C1, when I access this name is directly over here. So what would be the output of this particular, or we can say we can print this inside this. So what would be my output over here? Output should be Tom, right? Why Tom? Because we are setting this value from here. If I'll call the age of the customer, age of the Tom, then this will be 37. If I need to get the company of the Tom, then this would be like IBM. So this is how I can create the object and set the values, then get the values. But just like I'm getting over C1 dot name over here. So does encapsulation working over here? Is this any kind of encapsulation? The answer is no. Why? Why no? Because all these I can say my members, class members are public in nature. So if I'll make this private, let us say private string name, private, private. Can I call this directly now over here? Can I use like C1 dot name? No, I cannot use that. Why I cannot use those values? Because they are private now. And to access the private values, what we need to do that? How to access the private values? By using getters and setters that we have discussed many times at the time of encapsulation concepts. Like we are in encapsulations. Let us say which let us say we were having companies. Okay, these were the public values, and we also define some private. Yeah, it's like login page. So either you can define these as in getters and setter using the get and set method, or you can directly define these properties like this: phone number, mail, username. Right? We already have discussed this concept. Now we have customer class. Inside the customer class, we have some properties like this. Okay. So let me create just a second. So this is saying already contain. So yeah, this is saying this we need to make it global. Just a second. Yeah. Okay. So by using this method, what we were doing over here, we are getting the value of name. We'll assign this name to this particular name, and we are getting age over here. We are giving this age to this particular variable. We are getting company over here, and then we are assigning to company over here. But now these are private, so I will not be able to access these private variables outside of this class. Then I need to define these as a property, just like we did in the login page class. We were commented this and defined this directly as in properties. So now the properties are like the nature of the properties are like this. Let me comment it out. Control KC, and here are my properties. Okay. Then I need not to define all these values because not name is not null over here. Let me comment it. Yeah. So as soon as my constructor will get invoked, I'll set over this name to this name, right? And further, this name you can see has been called twice. One at this place. Now I already have explained you that how to call the properties, if you remember. The first thing you should be remember, like why we created these properties. We created these properties because our variables are our private in nature. And the second point, to use these properties to like directly get the values or directly access the values. Okay. Now this name variable, the value of name variable, we need to set it over here. Okay. And we if we have set the values, then we can directly get the value of name. So this is how the name is like using twice, first over here and then second over here. Like now I can access it. There is no such error, right? If I'll directly mouse over to this, then I'll come over here. And also the name is being used inside this get customer info, right? Inside the uh, same we can say customer class, we have one method called guest customer info. This will also get printed name, age, and company, right? So now can I ask you, like, is my is encapsulation is implemented? Yes. Constructor concept is also implemented, right? Which one is the constructor? This is my customer is the constructor. And encapsulation is also implemented. Which one is the concept of encapsulation? The properties get and set that we have said is the concept of encapsulation, right? So my both of the concepts are implemented over here. So I hope you can directly now access all these classes. You can create as much object as you want of this customer class. This is my one object. I can create C2 object, C3. These are the object references. And you accordingly, if you'll call C1 dot name, then Tom will get be printed. If you use anything else apart from this Tom, let us say Ankit in the second method, okay, in the next method you are going to create, then Ankit should get printed over here. Yeah, this is how you need to supply the values and print the values. Okay, so now I think that is okay. We the constructor concept I already have explained you in details, and also the same like get and set property encapsulation as well. Okay, for an example, so the practical use that we have discussed, like in some application registration, let me open any application. Let us say open, let us say demo dot opencart.com. We have an so e-commerce application. Okay, this is my opencart. So there is a registration page for this. So you see there are some fields, some optional fields, username, some mandatory field, first name, last name, email address, country, password. So yeah, so here the constructor concept works. Okay, so how many ways we can fill this form? There are like multiple ways. One way is that to fill all these values. Another way is that just fill mandatory values, just like first name, last name, and country. Third way is that just fill all the mandatory, because every time mandatory is compulsory to fill mandatory value plus username. Another way is mandatory plus username and email. The third number is all the mandatory value. There are multiple combinations to fill this concept. So multiple constructor will be created. So who will create this constructor at the back end? There will be like multiple constructor would be get created, and that will be provided to the UI developer. Okay, so on the UI you can see like by we are setting some values just like first name and last name, and accordingly that will get verified at the backend, and we will be using those. So the application, there might be any kind of application like Android application or web browser based application. If that for every the backend code would be same for every application. It's not like that the backend code would be different. So in the backend, we'll write an logic, and you can create it accordingly. So guys, this is an assignment for you. You need to do this. Okay. So for this design registration page, this is the application called opencart.com. You need to create, design a registration page in which you need to provide some constructor for all the mandatory fields. Just like you need to create only one constructor for all that, just like first name, last name, and country. Okay. Then create getters and setters. Okay. Create test class, object, pass some values of these, and then update some values. Okay. This is just an assignment. How you will do that? Let me explain you. First, you need to create a page class. Okay. First, create class. Then define some private variables. Okay. What would be your private variable? Just like first name, last name, and country. These are the mandatory fields. Last name and country. Okay. Then, okay, create constructor. This is your class one, or we can say registration page, right? Or define the constructor with some parameters. What would be your parameter inside the constructor? These first name, last name, and all. Okay. And then use get and set because these are private variables. Now create one more class that is called your test class. Okay, this is class 2. Inside the test class, what will you do? Object of the class 1 registration page. You need to create object. Okay, okay, and then create object of the above class or uh, get some variables. Get variables. Okay, and yeah, you need to get and set those values and print the results. Will you try it out? Will you try it at your end? Just give it a try, and I'll explain you in the next session. Okay. So I would request you, both of you, like, please practice it. Just watch the video once again, and we'll look into this tomorrow. I think this is enough for this session. Any question?
No question.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.